Hello, this is our presentation on the differences between the North and South by Alex Gray and Sarah Birchlaw.
There are many social differences between the North and the South. The North was industrial, while the South was agricultural. The South's agricultural state because they had long growing seasons and warm seasons made them have to pick a lot of cotton, and the easiest way to get a better profit was to use slaves, which made it a big deal to them. However, in the North, they didn't have that because they didn't have the long growing seasons, and they were more industrial anyways. Pretty soon, slavery was outlawed in the North, and they didn't have it anymore. The North had public schools, but the South did not. The North had a lot of new entertainment and newspaper growth, but the South was scared of modernizing, so they didn't really have that. There were also a lot of political differences between the North and the South. Sectional differences with the South led to political differences, and that was the same thing that was happening in the South as it was in the North. In the North, there were a lot of reform movements. For example, abolitionists. The reform movements were to get more involved with politics in the North. The North were strong believers in states' rights, so they gave more rights to the states than the whole South. The growing population of the North allows growth of political power in the North, and Congress and presidential elections. So political power was big to them. Fear that the North will move to abolish slavery was a big problem for the South. If the North got rid of slavery altogether, they would have nothing. The Republican Party began to dominate the Northern politics in the 1950s. And the South supported popular sovereignty in a state of territory's decision to allow slavery. The economy had a couple differences between the North and the South. The North had well-developed factory production, while the South had farming and plantations, which caused them to have a lot of slaves. The North had poor working conditions, and telegraphs were their main communication methods at the time. The South refused any industrialization, and they did not have to produce their own goods because they had what they needed on their plantations and farms. The fabric industry helped the Industrial Revolution in the North. 82% of the production capability in America was in the North. They also had well-developed factory production. The South had cotton for New England, and Britain was the main export. Tredegar Iron Works was the only iron factory in the whole South.
Transportation. In the North, more roads towards the west than the South, from cities in the east to the new states add to the Union. In the South, more relied on the waterways. In the North, they had clipper ships and steamboats, and over two-thirds of all the railroads in America were in the North, and less than one-third of Americans used railroads in the South. In the North, the Erie Canal connected to the Great Lakes to the Hudson River for the transportation of goods, and in the South, steamboats moved cash crops along the rivers to the South, and many relied on smaller waterways that connected to the Mississippi. Photo booth!